Welcome back to this Break the Cycle Podcast. We're here talking about letting it go and resentment. Resentment is one of the hardest things that we experience, and holding it is sometimes holding a knife and you're stabbing yourself and you don't realize where the pain is necessarily coming from. So it's hard to let it go or potentially unpack it. So this episode, we're going to talk about unpacking some harder experiences, or should you just let it go? And how do you know when you're holding on to resentment? So
take it away, Danny.
I don't know. How do you know when you're holding on to resentment? I think when you have like physiologically a really deep, tense feeling inside.
How do you feel that though?
Personally, like in my chest, also like up my spinal cord, just like aggression, like almost like, you know that when the guy turns into the werewolf and then he like hit the hair on the back of his neck stands
like Twilight?
up. Yeah. Edward Cullen? No,
Jacob.
So
you feel like Jacob?
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to transmute into a werewolf. That's when I know that I'm holding resentment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what about you? How do you know?
Honestly, I think my three best friends are ego, resentment, and fear.
What a squad.
That is what carries me. That little backpack in the back. Like as soon as resentment gets in there, ego slips in, and then fear-based thoughts come in. And
it's like this fourth member, shame.
Yeah, it's a whole sickness, but we don't talk about shame. we don't talk about the shame.
We got shame about shame.
Yeah. Shame is not a good person. You know what I mean?
Shame is deep down in the backpack.
Deep down, because the ego, the fear, and all of that, they're the superstars.
Yeah.
So when I think about resentment, I think of just like old dead branches on a tree. It can't help you grow. You know, like you've got to clip like the dead plants for the plants to like continue growing. But like that's still a part of you. So you don't like, I don't want to clip that stuff because it's kept me like, I feel like fear or resentment or ego for the longest time kept me going. Like that kept my fire burning, which is a sick way to live.
But it's a powerful emotion.
But it is a very powerful emotion. So that anger or just fear, which is what I call anger, all of that kept it going. So whether I was living in spite of, you know, it's like, I'm not killing myself because I'm mad. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to prove a point to these people.
You're going to prove a point.
I'm going to prove a point. So that's, I mean, it's carried me a long way.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where I was like, this is so unhealthy and so sick. It was like, it just got to a really bad place. And I think that just kind of, my last story that I just like shared about my depression and everything, that got to the point where I was like, I cannot keep living like this because it just gets so heavy and so deep. And then I start doing sick things that I feel are just, but are very unjust because I'm like, well, someone did this to me. And that's not who I am. Like, that's not who I am, like, naturally or organically. I feel like I'm a very loving and giving person. So when I'm in that dark space or in that dark energy and I'm holding on to that stuff, oh, man, you don't want to be around me. It's a bad news bears.
Same goes for me, too. When there's no space between the stimulus and response, then that's when you
break
are
it down
like,
to like a third grader. Stimulus and response. What is this like?
Like, you go through an experience and then you react.
Is that the stimuli?
Yeah.
Well,
stimuli, and then you.
The thing is, like, the stimuli would be like someone betraying you, right? And then if you do your knee-jerk reaction, which is to betray them back, right, or to hit them back, then that's where you're going to be holding on to resentment, right? Whereas if you can tap into your divine self, then you can respond instead of react, right? And you can act from a place of love opposed to fear.
I feel like resentment is like a pimple and you pop it and like the pus comes out, but then sometimes like you look in the mirror and there's still like a little bit of pus in there.
Yeah.
And then you want to dig it out so bad, and then you keep digging and digging, and then you're bleeding more and more, and then you have a scar for like a few months.
I got a pimple on my forehead and it hurts.
I could see it.
Yeah.
We should have got you one of those stars.
Yeah, we need to get you like, you should have told me.
You know when
I
it just
have
hurts
some.
and you like can't even pop it? It just hurts.
You should never pop it. You need to put something on it. I have a
Think
whole
of resentment.
Yeah, you cannot pop a pimple. I'll get into a skincare routine after this with you. Because I had really bad cystic acne. I had still some scars. Look how beautiful my skin is now.
It looks great.
Crystal clear. I want to take a little nap on that. You know?
should.
Elijah wants to take a nap on Kyla's skin.
Yeah. It looks quite lush.
But people always tell me all the time I've got beautiful skin. They're like,
that's
you
like
got
such a compliment.
I know. And I was like, I'm pale. And they were like, you have beautiful, pale, white, milky skin. And I was like, this is getting weird.
You're like, shop my Amazon cart.
Yeah.
Here's a link.
Yeah, that's weird. Just skin me and keep me as a lamp somewhere.
Yeah. I think you'd be a lovely lamp.
I probably would be glowing it all. Oh, God.
The brightest lamp of all.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd that come from? Kyla's skin.
Kyla's skin.
Like a shade over your head. Just ding.
Yeah, resentment is, she's difficult. She's a tough one, for sure.
Yeah.
But she's my friend.
It depends, yeah, because I feel like it's very powerful. There are times where I want to like prove them wrong.
Yes.
When I was in college, I like rushed all the fraternities, and I didn't get into any of the fraternities.
Same experience.
It was soul
Same experience.
crushing.
Yeah.
Soul
crushing. I was
crushing.
so mad when I didn't get any.
And my body filled with negative emotions, and one of them was like resentment and revenge.
Yes.
And it was powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up thinking to myself, I'm like, I couldn't get into any of their parties. I'm going to create the biggest party, and I'm not going to let any of these guys in.
Yeah.
And that's what brought me into being a club promoter. And 2 years later, I literally had the best party. But I didn't have resentment. I let it go.
Yeah.
You let the guys in?
Let the guys in.
So it wasn't just you and a bunch of girls?
It wasn't me and a bunch of girls, because like we wanted the guys. We love the guys. But it fueled me to get to a position where I wanted to be extremely successful.
I think that's where everything has ever gotten me.
You know?
You got to use what you got, you know? You got to work with what you got.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's diesel, sometimes it's a Tesla charge, but it's fuel regardless.
It's still fuel. It's still
It is
energy.
fuel.
And it can take you and carry you far places.
Yeah.
And I always owed myself, like I think about all my defects of character, right?
Yeah.
And like some of them are really valuable,
Mm-hmm.
or like in different areas of my life. I'm like, this one's really good.
Yeah.
But like in this space, it's not really good. You know,
You
like
need to know. You need to have
you
discernment.
have to understand,
Because
like
that I'll
which
show
one.
you mentality could fucking drive you through a brick wall to new heights.
Yep.
But also it could drive you through a glass wall, and you could get cut up and be down bad.
Yeah. Like I'll show you, like in the workplace, people are going to be like, the fuck is this lady on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it depends. Did you have that experience earlier this week?
I did.
Tell me about it.
So, Danny takes me off an account. Okay, he didn't take me off the account. He just took me off the consultations. And I got a little hurt.
Okay, so explain that a little bit more for people who don't have context.
So I have an account, right, where people call in, they schedule appointments with me to schedule and do qualifications, pre-screening for treatment,
Okay.
ketamine treatment,
Mental
Spravato
health
treatment,
treatment.
mental health, all different kinds of things. And we have this an account in the local area, and it's not doing too well. So people are not showing up.
Okay.
And Danny makes the decision. I hop into this meeting like 10 minutes late because the other account was running over because they take so long.
We had one meeting. It ran over.
It ran
bit.
over.
And then, we were like 10 minutes late.
12 minutes late. I happened, and Danny's like just going to town with these two guys, like just going on, making these plans. And I'm like, what? Did I hear that correctly? You're going to do what? With who?
So then I put the two guys on the calendar instead of Kyla because we only had 2 assessments
guess what?
in the last month.
They missed the first scheduled consultation.
But here's the caveat. That weekend, whatever field got put under Kyla, we got more assessments in 3 days than we did in 3 weeks. So
Was that resentment?
sometimes you got to work with what you got.
Here's the thing is I think it was sometimes I think it's God, because I was like, God, just give me something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, please, like, I mean, I'll get on the phone and I'll start pacing. Like I'll be asking questions, like just trying to like get this person scheduled, you know, like, or when I'm making the calls out, like just to land a lead. And I think that's just the sales. That's always been in me.
Yeah.
But because of that, I wanted to prove a point. Like, that's why I said that big list of like people who have not shown up.
Yeah.
And these
You
are
got
all
fired
on.
up.
Yeah, and all those calls were outbound. Like those evals I got were outbound calls.
Which basically means instead of them coming in,
And scheduling.
you called out.
I called out.
You called them.
I called them. When I had scheduled, I called out, and the guy was like, I can't talk right now. Can we schedule for tomorrow? And I was like, we sure can, buddy. we sure can. Put them on the schedule and then called them and then
On a Saturday.
And
that's what happens when you got the fuel.
Yeah,
Sometimes
but
you need a
it
little
can
fuel.
take me in a bad place because then I'm like mad at Danny.
Yeah, and then she's like, I got demoted. I'm like, no, Kyla, you did not get demoted. We just got to try to, pull some levers and see what the perfect mix is, because the outbound calls convert just as well as some of the inbound ones too. It's like 50-50. I mean, you did 3 of them, in a month.
Regardless, it was a example of utilizing some type of energy and transmuting it, and almost like a I'll show you type.
Yeah.
And it could be very powerful, It also could be like fire, could burn.
And I think we have to like keep in mind just with that, like the last 2 weeks before this week were rough. Like Burning Man, before that, you know what I mean? Like all of that. And we were busy. We've been filming. It's been a lot. Like on days that we film, like I don't get called. You know what I mean? Like
difficult.
It's difficult. So that takes a whole 24 hours out of my day for me to get evals.
Right.
So it's definitely took me in a place where I was like, I'm going to actually add this day in, you know what I mean? And take the time to sit down and do what I got to do, because I want to make sure. But this is the other thing, is that comes with perfectionism.
Yes.
That also leads into an issue. Perfectionism is that protection, like Brene Brown.
She says that like perfection and shame go hand in hand.
Yes.
Because
so, like, I felt shamed.
Shame is driving.
Yeah.
Perfectionism is in the perfectionism is driving. Shame is in the passenger seat.
And then what's in the back? The annoying backseat driver.
I don't know. I'm sure you got some of those in your backpack.
Oh, I can't
Ego.
remember what it is.
Resentment.
I can't remember what it is. It was one of the two, but it was shame. A lot of it was like, I wasn't mad at Danny. It was shame because, and so I get I have to perfect it.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't want someone to see any faults in me or that can like berate me and be like, you're not doing good enough. And that's a sick thing to live with, because then it comes out in everyday life, like not just work. It's in everyday life. And then I get stressed out in my personal life because I'm not performing well at work. And so it's like a whole different dynamic. But Danny had nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? It had everything to do with me.
Yeah, it wasn't personal, because like it wasn't a matter of you not performing, you not trying hard enough. There's so many variables within the funnel that like switching something up like that could have just these, reciprocal effects that, for example, then we don't have to do 2 calls, right? Instead of just having the one and doing the assessment.
Right, totally.
There's so many different variables. So it wasn't personal, and I think you realize that now. And yeah, we'll see what happens on tomorrow's call, but you could very well be back on the calendar,
Yeah, I'm interested to know. God, it's already been a week.
It's already been a week. The
Holy
week
cow.
flew by.
Yeah, I thought that was yesterday.
Yeah, it's really crazy though that what resentment could bring up, and it unlocks a certain energy, like source of energy that you don't realize that you have.
There's so many, I mean, there's a few other things that you can get rid of too, like shame, right? Or greed, right? You can let go of all these different things. Why does resentment resonate so much with you, Elijah?
I think that shame is kind of like you internalize shame.
Mm-hmm.
They say that like the way to like break shame is to speak about it. So I think shame isn't really an energizing emotion or experience. It's like
it's almost the opposite.
Yeah. And I think that greed, same thing, where it's like sometimes you could be energized by greed, but not really, It's almost like a downer, where resentment is like high energy. Like you have a feeling towards someone or something. It's in your body. It's like anger. It's like it fuels. But like the difference between anger and resentment for me is anger is like maybe more reactorial towards something.
Mm-hmm.
Versus resentment is
internal.
Yeah, it's like stored in your body.
Turns inside.
Yeah, and I held resentment for a while with the loss of my father. And yesterday was 11 years since he's passed.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a big day.
11 years?
11 years since he's passed. And I feel like there was Florence and the Machine song, and it was like, it talked about
The dog days are over?
No, there's another one. It's like carrying around a dead horse. I forgot the name of it.
Carrying around a dead horse.
Shake it.
Shake it out.
Shake it out.
Yeah.
Shake it out, shake it
I
out.
love Florence and the
Shake it
Machine.
out, shake it out.
Yeah.
Wow. And it was a really good one. And I listened to that song on repeat. And there's like a remix of it too. And there's like, I think it's like Benny who does like a heavy emotional remix to it. And that was like my gym song for a very long time. But it was basically my relationship with my father. Abusive, really difficult, unresolved emotions.
Toxic.
Super toxic.
Yeah.
And then the motherfucker does a deep dive 6 feet into the ground. And he's like, I'm out of here. And I'm like just standing here with
Leave me all
another
the emotional
50
baggage.
pounds of baggage
Yeah.
and like about 45 fucking skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. Like, what do I?
Should have thrown it in there with him.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you motherfucker, you like did all this shit to me and now you leave me with all this stuff. It's not even like it's a clean cut, but it's
Right.
like now I have all this stuff to work through. And the resentment really just was tolling for a while. It was really tolling for a while. And I think that once I really worked through it, and it took me probably like 5-6 years to work through that resentment, it was like such a freeing experience. And I think that when you do have like these bags that you may be carrying around or these like weights on your shoulders, like you don't even realize how much it's actually affecting your day-to-day life
Yeah.
until you do release it and you're like, it's a very powerful moment. It's a very liberating moment.
How did you go about releasing that resentment that you had?
I did like a lot of internal work. I saw a therapist, but I think I realized like there's a therapy technique. I think it's like it's mentioned something about family systems.
Inner family systems.
Yeah, where you almost like play characters of different people.
Yeah.
And
Great. Love it.
It was so powerful because I played his role and I realized that it was just generational trauma. His father did onto him what he did onto me.
Yeah.
And he was the victim in the narrative, but in mine, he was the antagonist.
Yeah.
Until I realized like he was the protagonist in his own story.
Yeah.
And being able to role reverse and like realize like he was just stuck in this pattern and had no way to get out of that pattern.
Yeah.
Then I just reshaped the narrative.
So what does that look like? You go into like a playroom or something with a therapist and you like actually play the roles and whatnot?
It
or like
can be like that.
Yeah.
You can also do it in a group setting. They call it, there's also like this triangular trifecta where it's like someone always is in the role of the savior, someone's always in the role of like the perpetrator, and someone's always the victim. There's always 3 dynamics in every relationship. Every relationship. You have to like really watch and look.
the savior,
The savior
perpetrator, and the victim?
and the victim, always. In every single relationship, even in this dynamic. It will switch roles all the time with just us 3. We'll switch it. Like I'll get mad at Danny. I'm the victim. Then I go to you. And you'll, antagonize or whatever because we're talking about it. Or like Danny and I will talk and you guys will be like, I was late today. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, we always are constantly working in these 3
That's an interesting framework.
emotions, and they utilize it in inner family systems because it's so true. In inner family systems, you've got different children in different ages. You've got the middle child, the youngest child, you've got the oldest, and you've got the mom who's either the victim or like the savior, or she's the one who's antagonizing. Same with the father, and then you've got the it's so many different roles,
So many different dynamics.
so many different dynamics, and you can do it in a group setting where like people are like, you don't even know is going to act like your mom.
Yeah, they play different roles.
It's such a good experience. It's challenging, and you feel like really like how did you feel? Did you feel like
So I didn't go
uncomfortable?
to a therapist and do it.
Yeah.
We had a class at Pepperdine and it was called like family therapy basically, and we had a scrapbook. Like the final was a big scrapbook and everyone was like writing like 20-page papers and I was scrapbooking, but it was the most emotionally tolling class I've ever gone through.
That's
They would
crazy.
like throw at you, it was almost like AA. They were like, okay, so I want you to pick out 3 rooms in your home. Where do you feel the safest? Where do you feel the most comfortable? And where do you feel the most fear? And it just like brings you back to a place as a child. Like imagine you going through some type of, even with my father, like I would, run to my mother's house or I would be in different places and it just like would force you to relive these things.
Yeah.
That, and then I also like, I don't smoke really at all, but I was like smoking a lot of marijuana during that time and it actually really helped me.
Yeah.
Like it helped me relive the memories, but almost from an objective point of view, which sounds crazy. But I remember like going into my father's house when it was one of the hardest days. I remember it to this day. And it was like my adult self going in and like shielding my father, grabbing the younger version of myself and walking out.
Yeah.
And being like, this is my narrative now.
Yeah.
While you were high on weed?
While I was high on weed. And I was meditating.
Powerful.
And I was like hysterically crying.
Yeah.
But it was almost like ketamine in a way you could like be the observer of the experience. And it allowed me to do that. So I think it was like family therapy class, and then just being like, these emotions are inside of me. Why are they inside of me?
Yeah.
And feeling that resentment and being like, what do I need to do to release it? And then no longer playing the victim of the narrative, but like being my own savior.
It's similar to inner child work too.
Yeah.
It's very similar to like that whole, I wasn't strong enough to do inner child work. I wasn't ready.
Explain inner child work if someone doesn't have context.
I guess like the dumb version is like, really, there's like a book for it too, for inner child work. So inner child work is like basically talking to your inner self. Everybody has an inner child. We all have an inner child. Doesn't matter what age you are. Your inner child of like who you were when you were younger and like who you imagine when you were younger, that's your inner child. And some people's inner child are super damaged. Some are great, happy, never had any traumatic events. Some people, they can't even connect with their inner child because they're so closed off from their childhood from traumatic events. So inner child work really takes you to sit down, and there's some of the work that they have you do is you write, and in the book you are like writing to your inner self, and you don't even like, you just like let the pen go, and your inner child comes out in the pen. There's like prompts for it. And so one of my therapists that I had, she's like, I need you to do this inner child work. And I'm like, I'm not ready to do this inner child work, lady.
It's difficult
work. I was like just not ready for it. And you can't force somebody who's not ready to do something. Like I was coming off of drugs, and you know what I mean? Like I was just not ready and emotionally prepared for it. And I remember sitting down trying to do it, and I started hysterically crying because I think the prompt was like, it asked like a question that kind of twisted, and I don't remember the question, but I just remember it was like gut wrenching, and I was like, I can't do this, like absolutely no way. And then I also have tried breathworks. Have you tried breathworks?
I have.
Lord Almighty, I'm not into the yoga stuff. I'm not into like any of the, like a world of
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
But breathworks was an option that was given to me because I was in a luxury rehab, and these people come in, they're like hippied out, they're like wearing yoga pants, and they're like half naked, and they're like, okay, everybody lay on the mats. We're going to play some like really intense music. I'm like, what are these people talking about? And like, they're sitting on my chest, and I'm like, they're like, breathe deeper. And I'm like, you know what I mean? I went into this entire space of I'm crying, shaking. Like I have never had it was like holy rollers. Like the Lord is in me. You know what I mean? Like I was like, something's wrong. Like I thought I was going to pass out, but I was laying there, and I'm like, okay, just like go through it. And she's like, you just got to breathe mama. And I'm like, and there's like ways to breathe. She's like, okay, now like short ones, like, and I'm like, okay. Like it's something to do with your oxygen and like connection. And I did it once, and I was like, that's all I'm gonna do. But I felt better. I definitely felt better, but I definitely went into a space that was almost like a meditative space, which I had never achieved before. And it definitely helped. It did some healing, but I was like, I'm never doing that shit again. It was scary because I started like to cry, and it like cracked me open, and I didn't want to be cracked open. I was not ready to be cracked open. And so I think when you force somebody or like try to get somebody to go to that space, it's way too scary. Like
you have to be ready for it.
Yeah, like I wanted to run the other way, and I was like, I'm not working on this trauma for years. You know what I mean? Back to the drugs.
Put it back in the suitcase, back in the closet.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm going on a hike. You know what I mean? Like I was just not ready, and so it took some time. Even now, I think with the art of letting go and just this overall, I had to just get to a point of putting like pen to paper and do it the old school way. Yeah. Like the AA way. Yeah. And
just like journaling or what?
Letters.
Like the AA way, the 12 steps.
Oh.
Which I think that is, it's literally pen to paper. Pen to paper.
What does that mean?
Pen to paper. So
like writing down something?
There's certain steps within the Alcoholics Anonymous program that are like therapeutic steps, right? So you're going to actually sit down and you're going to write some shit out. And it's like the fourth step is taking a moral inventory of yourself. So you're going to write down all your resentments. Everybody everybody, every single person that you could ever imagine. Like the guy in 4th grade that told me I was fat. You know what I mean? Like every single...
The mailman.
I mean, every single person. And then after you write that entire list, there's columns that you do. So the next column is what they do to you. Like, what? Tell me all about it. What happened? And then the next column is what did it affect? So it was your self-esteem, sexual relationships, your money. Was it... like there's 5 different categories of what it affected. Then the last part in that column is what was your part in it. You always have a part in it, always. Now that could be very simple. Like I was like, what? I don't have a part in like what my mom did to me. You know what I mean? Like what part? I was really mad at this. Like in the resentment, I was like, what part did I have in the man that molested me? And she was like, you're not letting it go. That's your part in it. And I was like, mind blown. You know what I mean? Like super simple, let it go. And then the next part is like sexual relationships. Like write down every single person that you've had sexual relations that you either tried to get something out of, whether it was money or that you hurt somebody with sex. The next part is writing all your character defects of character down.
Super powerful.
It's super, super intense, super powerful.
It's like a diagnostic of all of your past experiences.
Yes.
Where do you find like this framework? Can you just Google it, like a pen to paper?
Yeah, it's literally in 63 to 64. There's a whole outline, like Bill W. talks about it, like what does it affect. Like he does the columns in the book. It's in the book, like Mrs. Jones. And Mrs. Jones, like what did Mrs. Jones do? Well, she slept with my, husband or like whatever it is. And what did it affect? Sexual relationships, it's like self-esteem. What's his name fired me. It affected my pocketbook, all these different things.
It outlines the process.
And then you do all your fears list. You do an entire list of fears, which is like everything I'm afraid of. Men seeing me naked, like all these different things that are like really deep that may not be fears to anybody else, but they're fears to me.
Yeah.
And then the 5th step is just telling somebody every single thing that's on there.
Oh, wow.
One person.
That's crazy. We had to do that at the scrapbooking class. We had to like sit next to like different people and like tell them.
Strangers.
They were in the class.
But
yeah,
still, like.
Yeah. And we had to be like, okay, explain the rooms to completely someone different each week, each page, each prompt. But it showed you how fucked up other people are.
Yeah.
Versus you're always looking at your story and there's so much shame. But as Brene Brown says, like shame is eliminated when it's spoken.
Yeah.
And the more people that you speak it to, and then you hear like other fucked up stories, you're like, it wasn't that bad. You know? Or it's like relative. It's relative.
Yeah.
So everyone goes through something,
That's powerful. I always say just speaking about it and sharing it, like, I mean, that's like the whole thing is like, just talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Talk about it. It loses its power. You take yourself out of it. And when I went through, I've worked the steps several times. And I remember the first time I worked a 5th step with another woman and I told her everything. Like, I just felt like walking on clouds, like everything was lifted.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there thinking like, there's no way I'm going to be able to tell this lady I did this stuff. Like I did some like really harmful things. Like just.
But when you step into your story and you like claim it, there's like something very powerful about it. And then when you explain it as well, it's like a cause and effect. Like you can understand how you got it. Like, does it make it acceptable? No, but does it make it understandable? Yes.
Yeah.
And make it understandable.
You like take ownership of it and then you're not deflecting it or like rejecting a part of yourself, which I think is what perpetuates a lot of the shame and insecurity.
For sure.
It's like rejecting that, you did things out of pain or suffering.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone through like a bout of resentment?
Yeah, I think everyone has, honestly.
Well, not you, Danny.
I've had many. I mean,
you've systematized it.
Yeah, optimizing it.
I think anytime you have someone who's really close to you, whether it's your parents or your siblings or a romantic partner or a business partner, you give them a part of control of your life in a lot of ways. Like a lot of the variables of your life are in their hands, and there's a lot of trust that needs to ensue, obviously, but then also when someone doesn't meet your expectations, then that's
Ooh, I was gonna say expectations are premeditated resentments.
Yeah, they really are. Exactly.
You just that thought just came to my mind.
That's
I was
a beautiful quote.
Yeah.
Expectations are premeditated resentments. And so when someone does not meet those, then you already got a resentment just lined up, it's ready in the queue. So yeah, I mean, I've had many of those situations ensue.
I want to hear an example, Danny. Let's break it down.
An example of a resentment that I've had. I think
Like a heavy one.
A heavy one. I think one that comes to mind was on my 23rd birthday. I was dating this girl at the time, and all my friends were supposed to go to this music festival together, and I expected her to want to come as well for my 23rd birthday. And she didn't. And then because she didn't, I had fed so much resentment towards her that the relationship actually ended before my birthday actually even happened.
Did she give you a reason why she didn't want to attend the festival?
Because we'd already been to like 10 in the last like 6 months.
So she was festivaled out.
She's like, I'm tired of this shit, Daniel. And you're like, but my birthday.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got really mad. I was like, it's my birthday, it's my friends. And she's like, you're just in this cycle of hedonic pleasure. And then the resentment, there was no lie really in retrospect. So yeah, I think that's something that I'm still trying to forgive myself for, just making poor decisions and just chasing the glitter. That's not always gold.
Here's the thing is like sometimes those things happen because they're meant to happen.
Yeah.
Like I fully believe that things that happen the way they do, whether it's resentment, like it's meant to be that way.
Totally.
I 100% like, even though I've made some bad decisions, like I would do over, but I think they've all led me to this exact moment, this exact path. Like I would not be sitting on this couch right now if I had not made a decision, 5150 back and, back then. Like I would not be here right now. Yeah. I would not be in this world, like this realm or this understanding and this mindset that I have. So I think all your experiences, regardless of resentments, like they led you to this experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It couldn't have happened any other way. And do you know why? Because it didn't. So here we are.
I think you're going to say something like
profound.
Here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. I mean, if it could have happened another way, it would have, but it couldn't have. So here we are. Yeah. I think just accepting where you're at in life it can be a difficult thing, but that's where letting go comes in.
So what happened with the festival? You just ended up breaking up?
Yeah, we broke up, and then I just went solo, and then I was just like really lonely and sad when I was at this music festival on my birthday. And then I had to kind of like
so you didn't
myself.
even have fun at the festival?
Yeah, it was really sad.
Right.
Resentment's tough.
Resentment is tough. And then healing through like trying to forgive yourself for holding resentment. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of just this like paradox of trying to get acquainted with like what even is reality, like what is the right thing to do.
I think there's a hard part in resentments with like, there's different types of resentments, right? Mm-hmm. There's like resentments with people, places, and things, right? So I get resentful people, places, and things. Like that's my biggest thing, or like people, places, and things. I swear to God.
Like now I'm resentful of Disney World.
No, like I'm being dead ass serious.
But
like
what places?
Oh God. So like truck? Past employment, my college, my university.
But are those people in the like institution?
The establishment, I consider it like it's like the county of Marion County, Indianapolis, Indiana. Like I consider.
But aren't those people? It's not like you're pissed at like Chili's. You know what I mean?
I consider it to be like the actual establishment. Like that place and that environment created that. Like I put that all in one bucket.
You connotate it to the place at least. Like if you were to walk in there, it would trigger those same emotions.
Yes, it triggers the same emotions.
But the place isn't.
Yeah, but even without the people in there, the place would still trigger
the same. It's still tainted to me. Even if it's a new judge in the court system. Even
what if you've worked through it?
Of course, I've worked through it.
No. If you've worked through it, does it still invoke those?
No, not when I've worked through it. But I will hold on to like people, places, and things. Like
I can understand if you had like a sexual assault, for example, at
you go to
a said location.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like that location is like contaminated, right?
Absolutely.
Or like it's like really tough to work through.
Any traumatic event for me, I have always held on to like ideas of people, places, and things that like Kohl's. Matt hate Kohl's. Got gave me my first felony at 15. You know what I mean? But
What about the Kohl's cash?
because and Avril Lavigne too. Let's just start with So Avril Lavigne gave me my first felony.
Why did Avril Lavigne give you your first
So I
felony?
used to love Avril Lavigne, punk rock forever, right? And she had this clothing line when I was in high school, and I decided to shoplift because I didn't have any money in high school from Kohl's.
You
where it
really
was-
wanted to be that skater girl.
I really wanted to be that skater girl, and I walked out with all these clothes, and they're like, "Ma'am, you need to come with us." My best
You
friend
didn't
is
get
there.
out?
No, I did not make it out. They caught me.
How did they catch you?
All the clothes did not come back out of the dressing room. So I was mad, and then because
So
I had
you were mad at Avril Lavigne because you shoplifted?
yeah, because like of course that's what I
She
said. There's
tempted
different
her.
types of resentments, right?
What did Avril ever do to you?
She had to come up with that clothing line,
That beautiful Kohl's Cash clothing line.
What? That makes no sense.
and that's what I'm saying.
Because
That's my
she
sick
sang
thinking. Sick thinking, right?
Boyfriend. What song did she sing?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, like that's my sick thinking though, and that's what gets me in trouble.
Yeah, it's
So-
kind of crazy.
That's how far I'll go, and I'll be like, I'll trace it all the way back. You know what I mean?
So can you listen to an Avril Lavigne song now?
Of course, yeah. Now
You've worked through it.
I've worked through
You
it.
put it on
But I
pen to
remember
paper.
I was devastated. My mom made me like, I used to have all of those clothes. Like I bought the entire clothing line besides the ones that I were stealing because I wanted more and more and more. Should have known I was an addict then, but like could not have.
Where did your addiction start? Avril Lavigne, Kohl's collection?
No, mine started with Barbies.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So
Predates Avril.
my mom literally, she was like, we're going to donate some of this. And I was like, no, like, no, we can't. Just like throwing a fit, like, no, you know what I mean? Like rolling on the ground. And she was like, we're donating some of this. And I was devastated, but she was like, you did this to yourself, Kyla. Like, you can't just have one.
Yeah,
You got to
you
have all of it.
overconsumed.
So now you're not going to have any of it. And I was like, good life lesson, Mom. Good life lesson.
Didn't stick with you for too long.
But I mean, it didn't. But she tried.
She tried.
She tried. There's no book
Shout out,
on
Mom. Shout out, Mom.
parenting. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I'll trace it back. I will trace back. There's
Wow.
like external resentments for me, and then there's internal resentments. So like if somebody could do something to me, and I can turn it around myself, and like really change the narrative real quickly. They're like this because I'm like this, even though it has nothing to do with me. It's sick thinking. It's super sick
Yeah,
thinking.
it is kind of like delusional thinking.
It is delusional thinking, 100%. Like someone could not like me, or maybe I don't get a job, right? And I'm like, oh, it's because I'm overweight. You know what I mean? Like I'll go like so far in
But
between,
take that deeper. Is it like it's a reflection of yourself? Just
trying to cope, trying to find like reasons why, and to cope with trying to let go of it because I've got to know why, or like understand something for me to let go of it and to process it as I have to understand why. So I will go, I think I have internal resentment towards myself, and I have resentments of, people, places, and things. But the resentment towards myself is because I made decisions, or I've been in certain ways, I've acted certain ways, and the resentments towards myself end up doing more harm
yeah,
than the out ones
of course.
because I beat myself up more
It's like you're stabbing yourself with a knife.
over
Yeah.
and over again.
And the ones that are going out, as we mentioned, can actually serve as fuel sometimes.
Yes.
Whereas the ones that are coming in, oftentimes will just beat yourself further and further down.
Yeah, will
to
keep
the
me in
ground.
a very
Same
low,
thing with shame
low
too.
place.
Any sort of those like internal emotions, they just beat you down more and more, opposed to like using it as fuel and being able to like, at least excel in the external, superficial,
Yeah.
sort of realm.
Yeah, I think resentment could mobilize you.
Yeah.
Some type of productive way.
Yeah.
If it's externally
If it's
focused
external,
towards
yeah.
other people, places, or
But I think
things.
100%
internalized resentment.
can cause more damage.
Yeah, I would consider that shame, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you brought up something really profound with like, people are always mentioning like working through it. Like you got to work through it. And it's like, what the hell does that even mean?
Right.
What does that mean?
What the fuck does that even mean, dude?
Work through it.
Yeah. I get really frustrated with these ambiguous terms, but you actually brought up a really good example of what that means. I mean, first, Elijah alluded to the family roles and being able to like play that out and be able to put yourself in your inner child. And then the pen to paper framework with the columns.
Yeah.
I love my spreadsheets. So
You do. 12
You
steps
would
is really
you would
powerful.
love this then. You'd be like, column it away. I'm going to go make a column.
You
you said
Yeah.
page 63 and 64.
Yeah.
I'm
on-
gonna go home and get my
Still
scrapbook.
building.
I want to see if I can find it. I
Oh
think
my
that'd
God,
be
I
a
would love
sick
that.
thing to do together.
Yeah, we should.
It's really a powerful.
That'd be a great
I would
arts and craft.
Yeah, share it with people.
Yeah.
And not like share mine, maybe.
No, you should.
But just going through and like the exercises that were done in that framework week over week was one of the most it shifted the way that I looked at my childhood, and it fundamentally shifted me. Like, talk about a class that changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, that was it for sure.
Damn. And they say college is too cool for school.
And they say communication degrees do
Yeah.
nothing.
They said that about theater too, but I got so much out of like so much groundwork and
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just teaching yourself like principles about yourself and like working through your own
Principles
character
before
opposed to like
personalities.
things that have direct application per se. Like it has these other applications like that aren't tangible per se. They're like soft skills. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's like just teaches you how to get out there, and like sometimes even with the resentment piece, you have to leave home or you have to like get out to then like reflect and be like, how am I showing up? And maybe I do have resentments towards certain people or characters in my story.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to adult and you have to like be your own parent and
You have
like
to take accountability.
Yeah, you have to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think working through it is literally being like, how am I showing up? And am I showing up in a shitty way to like my friends or like the people around me or the ones that I really genuinely love and care about?
You know, and I wanted to tell both of you this. Just a side note, I was reflecting, just kind of like being grateful, you know, making my little gratitude that I do like kind of once a week of just like what I'm grateful for. And I think this is like a good place to leave off is I have never worked for somebody or like been in an environment with people in a workplace or like anything, of course, college, of course, but in a workplace where I've been accepted to be myself and like talk and like if there's an issue, bring it to the forefront. And instead of like, we're going to HR, you know what I mean? Like talk about it openly.
You know what Kyla texted me yesterday? She says, do protein shakes make you fart?
We were on the phone. You were talking about
I
that.
know. So I texted Danny. I was like, I'm sure he eats a lot of protein. So I'm going to ask.
And I was like, yeah, sometimes.
But like, I never have been. That's what I was telling somebody, I was like, I have never been happier in like my work life right now. I have never been like, I feel it's not even like work. Like I enjoy what I do, of course. But like when I'm on the calls, like I know that this is going towards something greater and bigger. And so I don't even mind if I spend like 3 hours and just talking, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't even bother me. It's because I get to show up and like, I get to get on a Zoom call and I'm going to see Elijah and, you know, I know like you're going to call me at the end of the day or like wrap it, like how are the calls? And just, I've never had a place where I've had that. And I was talking to my partner yesterday and I was like, this has been a totally different experience. And I would have never gotten that experience if I would have never have gone through everything that I've gone through to be grateful and to appreciate what I have right now. Because if I would have gotten this 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever, I would let it go. Like I wouldn't care. Actually, if I would have stayed sober the first time, I would have had 9 years tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Where you at now?
Almost 2.
That's
I'm coming
great.
up on 2. Yeah. Coming up on 2.
That's
It's the end of the year. Yeah.
Nice.
I have one question to leave us with, and I want to hear y'all's thoughts. If you could give one piece of advice to the version that you mentioned today that's holding resentment, what would you tell that person? That younger version of Danny at the festival or that younger version of Kyla in Kohl's?
I want to be funny, but I
Yeah, you can.
don't try heroin. No, on a serious note,
Kids, don't do drugs.
I would probably say you don't know shit. I would literally probably tell myself at that point, like, you don't know anything. Like, you don't know anything.
How would that help?
I really think it would help because it's like, I thought I knew it all. I really thought that I like had the ultimate power. Like I was like egotistical, like God. I really thought that I knew everything and like had the answers to everything. But I had to like be beaten down literally by life to be like, I really don't know anything. I would say that either that it gets better or that, and you don't know anything, like good things are still to come. Like you don't know anything, but it will get better. So.
Yeah, that's good. Like maintain your humility. And I think my answer is actually kind of similar. I mean, don't do heroin per se, but just like don't do exorbitant, copious amounts of recreational drugs consistently. That's a good general rule.
You don't
for someone
seem
in
like
their
a
early
drug
20s.
user.
I know. I mean, I've definitely transitioned into this
Health
stage
and
of
wellness.
of health and
I also think
business
that
prosperity.
you guys were different types of drug users.
Yes.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
different.
I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
You weren't
Anyways,
really doing heroin.
I would say like
You weren't using needles and like
no,
No.
never used a needle.
He was like
never
going to
done
festivals.
heroin,
Yeah,
or
Robin
meth
and-
or
yeah.
anything like
Let's
that.
have a crazy party.
yeah.
But yeah, generally, I mean, ultimately, I would say like peace over partying. I think is a good principle to, maintain throughout your 20s for sure.
Peace over partying.
Yeah, like if there's a trade-off, like just constantly trying to go and have that like excitement or that adrenaline rush of going to like a festival or some exotic destination, etc. It's like, will this bring me peace, or am I just doing this just to let loose and to party and to be able to have fun?
I just want to make a comment on this. Like I was just as you said that, like obviously we were different drug users. That's what I wanted to be, right? I wanted that so badly to like have that access to that. Of course, when I went to college, I got like the frat parties and I got to experience all of that. But that's what I wanted. I couldn't afford it. Like I didn't have the option. I didn't have the luxury of that. So it went a darker route, a darker path. And then I got involved with the wrong people because I was looking for that, like who can get me to that slice of pie and like the islands, you know what I mean? Like where can I go to find it? And then I ended up like doing it the other way. So I think it shows like a pivotal moment in our younger selves, in our younger life, on like what paths we decided to take and like who we surrounded ourselves with, because very easily you could have went down my path and I could have went down your path.
Yeah, and regardless of which path you go, if you're chasing a feeling of like excitement or ecstasy, like there was a book that I recently was reading. It said sobriety is the greatest ecstasy. If you're able to cultivate that feeling internally through whether it be meditation or doing the work, like as we mentioned, and feel that ecstasy and that relief from your trauma, that's ultimately what everyone should be chasing, is that inner sense of peace.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because a lot of people don't want to, like you can talk about it all the time. I hear about people say it all the time, like sobriety is like the way to go. But if you're really struggling and you just cannot handle it, it's like
You need a numb.
Yeah, you got to numb. Like that's what I'm saying. We're different, but we're like in like the same, like we're different boats, different floats, and we're different rocking.
Yeah.
But like you and I have different experiences and like different feelings.
And I think also it's like, why are you using the drugs? Are you using them to numb or using them to party?
Party, right.
You know what I mean? Are you
using
using
to
it
numb,
as like...
using to have fun.
Right.
Numb,
and numbing
fun.
is like, it's tough with any substance because then there's a comfort around that feeling.
Yeah.
And you want to remain in that comfort.
It was like exciting for you. It was like pain relief for me.
Yeah.
So totally different. Like
yeah, I mean, until it wasn't, and then it transitioned into pain relief, and then that's when I knew I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
I had to back out, But here we are. We made it to the other side, all of us.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
Grateful.
Really grateful.
100%.
Yeah, I think that the thing I would say to my younger self is like, there's the most light in the darkest places, and you are the one that needs to transmute that energy.
There's light in the most darkest of
There's the most light in the darkest places.
Ooh, I like that.
And I think utilizing your narrative or your experiences that have brought you the most darkness tends to be either like a energy source to keep you going, or could be utilized as a way to help other people.
Guide people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful.
That is nice. Yours was so like profound, and mine was like,
Don't do heroin. I mean, it's true. I think everyone's a different. I mean, I've never picked up heroin. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. There's no more heroin left in the world. It's all fentanyl. Yeah, you should have a look.
There's some more Kohl's Cash, so hopefully Avril drops another
I'm not
one.
allowed into Kohl's ever again.
Like, none of them?
None of them.
I mean...
I am banned.
From every single Kohl's?
I'm every single Kohl's. Like, they literally told me, they were like, you're not allowed to any Kohl's establishment the rest of your life. And I was like...
How would they even know, though? They're like facial recognition?
So Kohl's have, like, facial recognition, number one. This is a long time ago. This was, like, 2009. So I'm sure they had my face at that local Kohl's.
No Kohl's Cash for Kyla.
Yeah. So, but... I thought Kohl's.
Let go of Kohl's.
They're going under anyway.
Yeah, I'm more of a JCPenney type of guy.
Yeah, like, they're going under.
Clear your resentment, guys. It's gonna affect you.
Do the work. And
for years later.
Not just ambiguously do the work, but go look at the AA, page 63 and
Write shit
64.
down.
Yeah.
Write shit down.